Welcome to SwarmCast, a podcast that's dedicated to exploring key AI and data science topics with industry leaders. Swarm One AI is the autonomous AI infrastructure platform for all AI workloads, from training through evaluation and all the way to deployment. It is self-setting and self-optimizing, and it works across all compute environments, whether on-prem or in the cloud. So this time I'd like to introduce today's renowned guest. This is someone whose name you've probably come across if you're only remotely connected to the AI space, Eduardo Ordax. Eduardo has built just a very justified reputation as one of the most influential voices in the world of generative AI. Through engaging content, powerful storytelling, and human-first approach, which I sincerely love, to tech, he's demystified AI for thousands and thousands of people around the globe. We're thrilled to have him here with us today. Hello, Eduardo.
Hey, it's a real pleasure to be here finally with you today.
Real pleasure on our side too. So maybe let's kick off with a quick introduction about your background and expertise.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a computer scientist, right? So I have a technical background. I remember the old days coding in, Java, Pascal, all the school, right? I've been working on sales, business development, strategy, and since 2015, I will say, 10 years ago, I directly jumped into this world of, data and AI. It was mainly data 10 years ago, data analytics, not so much AI. Right now, it seems like everything is AI. And for the last 3 years, working at AWS, I'm leading go-to-market for AI across EMEA. So that means, helping our customers to leverage AI in many different conditions, how to improve, productivity, customer experience, and so on. And as I told you before, super happy to be here with you today.
Wonderful. A very interesting background. The fact that you made the move so deeply. So I want to start with something before I actually kick off. I got enchanted by your LinkedIn about first paragraph, noting the principle of to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. And, it reminded me of some of Seth Godin's analysis in his books, particularly Practice. I really love that book, showing up to the practice. Would you share with me, how did you get this wonderful insight? Like, what was the spark of it, of this insight in you?
It's not coming from me. I used to be a professional athlete in the past. I used to run 1500. I've been competing in, the nationals and so on. Actually, I have 3 minutes, 50 seconds in the 1500. So it's not so bad. And I'm a big fan of athletics, right? And there were a very famous athlete from the US. He was called Steve Prefontaine. He was this kind of, a super talented folk that he was not able even to win a medal in the Olympics, but probably by that time he was, the best one, because when he was running, he was trying to give everything since, the first single meter. I mean, he was not very tactical, very strategic. It's like, hey, today we are going to die. Let's see what happens. And he had this quote saying hey, to give, everything less, it's a mistake. And, to be honest, I used to apply in my day to day. I really love it. So again, it's not mine, but, it's something that I used to apply, in my single day across many other unique aspects, and really like me a lot. Yeah.
This resonates very much with things you hear all over the place. And when you mentioned now the no fear to die, or what I'm ready to die, it reminds me of Max Verstappen. I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. He's the best Formula One driver in the world. And I saw an interview with him once, and he said, well, I'm just not afraid to die. and when you do that, and when you have this wholehearted commitment to the practice, coming back to Green, so to the practice, you get to Seth Godin, then you get that level of commitment. I really got enchanted by it, and it's beautiful. So, you've built a reputation for making AI feel clear and actionable, not just on LinkedIn, but all over, and in how you think and how you work and how you point at things. Why do you believe it's important to make AI more accessible and understandable for non-technical audiences? Like, what inspires you to make this really very, very challenging move over and over again, I should say?
Yeah, sometimes it's because I reflect myself in this dilemma, right? I mean, like, I'm coming from a technical background. I'm computer scientist and I've been coding for so many years. But then I moved more into the business side, right? And sometimes, like, when you have been in both sides, you realize about how disconnected they are both, right? So I try to make sure, because right now today with AI, there is a lot of noise and there is a lot of misconception about what it's AI and what it's not, right? And I see the media, I talk to people, and sometimes they believe AI is just ChatGPT, for example, right? And it's much more than that. So because I've been in both sides, and actually my day to day, I used to work in both sides because I'm talking to technical people most of the time, but also to business leaders and so on. I try to make the things simple because I think things can be simple if you just explain it in the right manner, right? So this is what I'm trying to do most of the time, but also because the process for me is super insightful. I mean, like, it's not the same to understand something that when you are trying to understand something to teach others. So going through this process is going to be super insightful for you, because you are going to get a lot of new knowledge, you are going to learn from things, and you are going to be in a better position to start explaining things. And especially also in this world. I remember, I always say the same story, but it's funny. 3-4 years ago, I didn't have a single friend who was aware about what I was doing for a living. Yeah, they knew I was working in something related to data, AI, but they didn't have any idea. Right now, all my friends, they are coming to me, and there is always the same discussion topic. Hey, tell me about AI, what is going to happen, humanoids, this model. It seems like, like, I used to be a nerd, and now I used to be the cool guy, right? So I think because of that, like, also many people, they want to jump into the space of AI. You need to separate what is real versus what is not. And when I go into social media, into even the TV and so on, I saw many people talking about AI, and they really don't know what they're talking about. So I try to be at least something to say, like, okay, I could be a trust voice. So people, like, who follow me and who, can listen to me, they really understand what is this world about AI. So it's essentially because of that, right?
Well, that's very interesting, and I'm especially attracted to the end of your words, because it has become from a tool to a hype, I think, the speediest thing that I've ever seen. And as opposed to internet, you knew when internet came about in 1995, 96, that all you have to connect with a modem to the net and start browsing. But this topic has a lot of myth around it. There is much more myth than knowledge in the public. And this puts people in stress, especially in the business communities. I should move into AI. Okay, but what should I do? So I think that your mission to demystify it actually funnels people's energy in the right directions, as opposed to like walking in the dark and trying to make their way. I really like it. And I noticed you write a lot with a lot of clarity, often about technical topics that even engineers find challenging, and you manage to make them very clear and very to the point. What is your process? And that's enigmatic for me, by the way, since I began reading your posts. What's your process for staying informed at such a high level and breaking down these ideas so well?
Well, there is not like so many magic there, to be honest. I mean, like, I don't consider myself, and this is like, I'm totally honest, I don't consider myself like a super talented people. I mean, like, technically speaking, I remember, like, the old days when I was at the university and I was coding. I was not very good at that. I mean, like I used to be with my friends and saw them how, like how fast they were doing stuff. And for me, like I was struggling since the very beginning, right? I think that the key thing for me is like, I'm a hard worker. So I used to dedicate a lot of time. I think I'm a very well organized person. And I think it's about, dedicating like good quality time, right? So every day, probably I spend 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, sometimes even more, to go through all different news, all different topics. So, for example, like I remember when Anthropic released MCP last November, even not so many people were talking about it. They started to talk like like a few months later. So, I mean, for me, the process like trying to go deep into that, like try to see how it works, what the people is talking about, try to see like the different technicalities, and even when I'm not like a developer right now, or not anymore, right? But I try to follow this process. I use a lot of AI, like to go through complex topics. I using, for example, Claude. I mean, like typical thing, like, hey, I'm reading a paper, putting the paper into Claude. I used to ask so many different questions, and like it's helping me on the process. So I think at the end, like it's trying, and because you are trying to take these concepts to explain to others, as I was saying at the beginning, like the process is much better for you because you are going to understand it much better. So it's not something that, hey, I want to be aware how it's working, but I want to make sure like others, they are going to understand. But again, not secret source, just trying to dedicate good quality time, to be honest.
So good quality time. That coincides also with the first notion. Okay, just go for it. Just show
Yeah.
up. That I can resonate very well. And by the way, things have really changed over the past several years with ChatGPT being introduced and everything becoming LLMs. And I think that has probably led to the very strong introduction of AI to the public and making it so tangible. And there must be a good level of explanation. And the fact that people like you dedicate that time and make that translation is invaluable, I believe. May I ask you if you had to place a bet on one area where AI will have a truly, I don't want to say exponential, but super strong impact in the next 2-3 years, where would you put it and perhaps why?
Yeah. Well, I know it's always a tricky and complicated question because this is evolving super fast. I know it's hard to answer because even, like if we were trying to answer the same question 2 years ago, we were talking about LLMs. Now we are talking about AI agents or agentic AI, and probably in 2 years' time, we will be talking about humanoids, real, like physical tasks that we are doing today. But I think my bet is, like in all those tasks that they are not providing too much value, or where we as humans, we are not providing extra value, they are going to be replaced, or in some manner, they are going to be enhanced by AI, right? So, for example, writing code. I've been writing code for so many times. And I remember 20 years back, trying to copy the code from the books. And I remember the teacher telling me like, hey, what are you doing there? What are you copying? Why are you copying the code from the book? And it was like, hey, I mean, like this function, it's useless. Why I'm going to dedicate, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes to code this? If it's exactly the same thing, I need to focus on the project. I don't need to focus on this function, right? So I think it's the same analogy to then with Stack Overflow and now with LLMs. I think because of AI, I'm not saying that, like software developers, they are going to be replaced. Not at all. What I'm saying is like they will be able to release much faster and much better software. So that means when you like to release a new version of something, if it used to take months, it will take weeks. So I think we are going to have much better products all the time. And we are going to see this, like a huge explosion of new services, new companies, and whatever. So, I mean, like the time that it takes to develop new services, I think is going to explode. This is one of my bets because we are seeing it already. I mean, like for some people, like AI has not changed their lives yet, and it's pretty much the same, the work. But if you ask to any developer how they used to code in the past, how they are coding right now, different story. And I think the other big bet for me, it's in terms of, like customer interactions, right? If you look into many companies with these, like huge contact centers doing stuff that, like takes a lot of time. They redirect to one agent and then to another agent, and you still don't know which is your order or how to return your services. And it's so annoying because, like it's taking a lot of time. I think because of AI and because of, like AI agents, this is going to be much more smoother, quicker, and, like much better experience for the end user. So I think we are going to see as well a huge, transition from what we have today in terms of, customer interaction, customer support, customer experience, to what we will have in just few years' time.
I agree with your second insight very much, but I find your first insight even deeper, because I haven't thought about the fact that, well, what you're actually saying is that the implication is going to be indirect, not by necessarily the integration, which will definitely happen, the integration of AI models within pieces of software and services, etc. But those services that were in the past just software and may even remain just software will be a subject of development which is much faster and quicker and widen the capacity of the human race to address so many things with software, simple software, regardless of the AI engines, whether they are or not integrated within it. I think this is a very deep view. I think this is a very deep insight. Very, very deep. Sincerely, the way that I viewed it was that we've been developing software for the human race for the last like 75 years. And I saw AI doing two things. One is changing everything that we have done with software into AI, because everything that was done with software you can actually improve in AI, and opening areas which simple algorithms were incapable of actually satisfying. But what you're saying here is something much more optimistic, and I think that much more realistic than that, and that is the widening of capacity of treating things with software. That is really wonderful, and it's optimistic. We're going to get in a few questions. I have another question for you, which on the less optimistic side. So thank you for that. At Swarm One, we focus a lot on helping companies move from AI experimentation, so to speak, to real scalable adoption. And especially we're seeing that with more and more movement from enterprises into the field, trying to see, okay, what can we do? How can we improve whatever we're doing? From your conversations with leaders and teams, which I think are more prevalent than what we have, what do you think still holds companies back from actually delivering value with AI? Of course, this is a very general statement, but what do you believe is the major, most common hurdles keeping back, holding back companies or creating friction?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a good question because, before this explosion of AI, I used to spend the previous 5 years working on these famous MLOps topics. So I was helping to, customers to develop MLOps practices, MLOps platform in order, to scale the adoption of ML, right? And by that time, I remember the customers were struggling in terms of, running machine learning models at a scale, in a reliable manner, efficiently, and so on. I always talk about three main different aspects, right? Like it was people, process, and technology. Mm-hmm. I never thought technology is a big problem. And let me explain. Of course, there is a lot of legacy and so on. But I think right now we have the right technology, the same we used to have a few years ago for the problem for the past. So, of course, technology is going to be improved, but I don't think it's a problem. I think the problem is on the other side, in the people part and the process part. So if we talk about the people part, one of the main issues with AI right now is that it's evolving super fast. So you are talking, for example, about AI agents, right? And to my mind comes topics like different frameworks, like, for example, LangChain, LangGraph, or different tools, A2A, MCP. But, all these different topics has been released a few months ago. How we are expecting to have people super well trained on these topics if they are completely new? But also still AI, it's super new. We used to talk about data scientists. And I remember a few years ago, having good data scientists, it was challenging because there were not like so many people being trained on data science. I think right now it's not a problem about data scientists, but again, if you think about the work of data scientists 5 years ago, doing feature engineering, training models, doing hyperparameter tuning, deploying models, automatically retraining models, and trying to get insights from there, again, the work of data scientists have changed a lot. Most of the times right now, they don't have to train models because they are using LLMs for different use cases, different purposes. So even data scientists, they need to upskill again, right? And we are talking about AI data scientists, AI engineers. So people is one of the main challenges to upskill the people. If the companies, they want to be AI first, they want to be data driven, they need to invest on their people. I think this is one of the biggest challenges for companies to, really adopt AI. And I think the other problem, as I was saying, is about the processes, right? So, and something that I've seen with AI is this, false promises or, exceeding expectations about what AI is going to deliver. And let me explain why. Everyone can go take any LLM, make some API calls, and you have something that is working. It's working pretty nice, to be honest, and you start getting, some results. But this is one thing. One thing is doing, this experimentation mode, and a different thing is to integrate this with your own systems, to be compliant, and so on. Because also one of the points about LLMs is like they work amazing in, 80% of the cases, 90% of the cases. What is going to happen with the other, remaining 10%? So we are not considering many times this remaining 10%. So people, companies, they get super excited because they have built this, a POC, and it's like, hey, right now we are going to increase our productivity by 10x, or we are going to improve the customer experience by whatever. But then they realize about the real challenges to put this into production. I need to redefine the process. They need to be compliant. Also, there's a lot of, concerns, especially here in Europe, about the regulation and so on. And, all these things come into the table, and they, have to redesign how the strategy is going to be, how they are going to be implemented. So I think, they overpromise with a lot of expectations that then in the real world, they realize that, this is also super complex. So I think this is one of the biggest challenges. Again, people, because not so many people is aware about, the latest technologies, the latest services and so on. And the other aspect is about, defining the process from the beginning till the end, and also to accomplish some stuff that, it's a must. I mean, like how you are going to be AI first if you don't have in place a data foundation, your data lake, your data is accurate, it's clean, it's on time, it's well governed. So these are the kind of, good practices you should have in place before taking a journey on AI.
Thank you very much for this. I find the topic of talent kind of wishing back to those good old days that you mentioned in the beginning, where you had to kind of, a data scientist would have to gather their data, have to put it in place, have to clean it up, have to write their own model, and have to hyperparameter tune it, and whatever else, and get to the performance levels that it requires. And I think that there is flowing a little bit of laziness into the field. Okay, let's see what what's the next Gemma, or what's the next thing that Cohere will put out, or whatever. And we don't have to do anything. And at the end of the day, this is kind of a maiming of the industry, because it limits creativity. If you have to sit down and write the model for your own company's data, and you have a clear objective, your chances for doing a good job are very high, I think. So yeah, that resonates very well with what you said, and I think it's a little bit of a sad situation. I think something should change there, but not everyone has the ability to train. To train a huge LLM, internally. Making a note on the lack of talent, also the fact that so many enterprises are moving into the field, creates inherent lack of talent. And when we speak with people, we find that They don't even know how to approach the issue. What team should I build? How many MLOps guys? How many DevOps guys? How many SecOps guys? How many FinOps guys? Who are who's leading it? How they interface internally with the other customers in the company? That resonates very much. So look, given your active presence on LinkedIn and the engagement with the AI community, how do you perceive the role of social platforms in shaping the discourse around AI development and deployment practices? And that's a question for you. I don't have any position here.
Well, I don't have any position either, because you have both, to be honest. My personal opinion, if you find the right people there on social media, and I'm talking in general, I'm talking about Reddit, I'm talking about LinkedIn, I'm talking about Twitter, I have found a lot of very nice people where I've learned a lot from them, but also I've met a lot of false sellers of of illusions, pretending to be expert, and they don't know at all what they are talking about. So
the adapter is salvation. The adapter is salvation. Yeah,
correct. So the nice thing about social media, and I think that's why it's super good, and it's happening to me as well, right? I don't have time to go into too many details every day. And they're talking about, new stuff, new models, new services. So for me, it's super easy to go into social media and, the same process that I'm following to explain to others, also in the other side, many others have done for me, right? So I can read a post that it's already digested, and I can say okay, MCP is this, it can work with this use case, it's good for this specific purposes, and so on. So I think that aspect, social media is great in terms of learning, but also in terms of being in touch with the community. I've met so many people around the world. Right now, I can say that I have very good friends that I've met just because of AI, because I've been active on LinkedIn. I travel a lot. I travel around the world, and 2 weeks ago, I was in Dubai. Last week, I was in Porto. Next week, I'm traveling again. And in all the places that I'm traveling, it's funny, but I meet people already there. And I used to spend some time talking to others and so on. So it's everyone is getting closer. And I think that's one of the main benefits of social networks. That's why I love it. But at the same time, you need to find the right people, and you need to differentiate, because of course there are many people pretending to be. And sometimes you are not even able to differentiate what is real versus what it's not. Something that I don't like about social network right now, it's about many bots or agents commenting posts and so on, and it's very easy to realize. I go through my posts and I start seeing comments hey, you have not written this, to be honest. It sounds like super it sounds like super electric, very formal, and it's hey, this is not a real person. And I think we are doing something wrong, because social media, social network is to have actually that, people talking together, real people, not, bots talking to other different bots, because they are not adding any value. It's not about likes. It's not, I spend a lot of time answering comments from people, writing to me, and it takes a lot of time. But I think it's because, I try to be authentic. Hey, I try to engage with the people because I really like it. And from time to time, I have received, messages from people hey, try my platform. I'm going to put some, agents there to answer all your comments, to engage with your audience. And it's hey, but it's not going to be me. And I don't want that. Maybe I don't care if I don't grow in number of followers, whatever. I'm not there just to have followers. I'm there to, learn from others. So this is something that I don't like to social media. And I think we are going to, break it if we continue, or if some people continue doing the same thing. And again, I don't like it at all. So that's okay. I had to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, we have to probably implement some AI in order to cut away the AI generated, and maybe make the social really social between people and not between people and bots.
Correct.
I like this very much. You once posted a post that, into a different direction. I'm taking our discussion now. You once posted a post that training huge models isn't really about data or GPUs. It's about CUDA drivers, SSH, and hoping that that the cluster won't crash. Now, why do you think this kind of infrastructure friction is still so common in AI today? We're since 2012, the revolution began. We're 2025. Why is it?
Yeah, well, to be honest, and this is also based on so many discussions with people, mainly startups, research scientists that they are training models, and they always tell you the same story. Even because right now with training LLMs, I remember when OpenAI released GPT, they were quite ahead the others. But at the end of the day, everyone is getting to the same point. As long as they have the data, as long as they have the compute, everyone is using more or less the same ingredients, right? So it's transformers. Right now it's inference time computing. So more or less everyone is using the same ingredients, and they are getting the same results. But we are talking mainly about research AI scientists, so they are very good at these specific topics, but they are not good at how to maintain the cluster and so on. Because we are trying to train bigger and bigger models, it becomes super challenging to make sure nothing is going to crash and so on. So again, this is based on many conversations where they are telling you the same story over and over again. It's like, hey, CUDA error because limit, whatever, and it's super annoying because, and it's funny because everyone is telling you the same story. So it's kind of joke as well, because training a model is not simple stuff, to be honest. I really admire the people who is there on the field doing this, but still it's quite challenging. And that's why many also providers, they are offering managed versions of clusters to make this training much faster and easier. So if you have a GPU that is going to fault, automatically you can do the checkpoint, you can replace the instance, and you continue the training job, right? So I think it's something that it's going to keep happening at the same time that we are increasing the size of the models. Of course, GPUs, they're going to increase as well, but it's still very challenging.
Yeah, it seems to me, I perfectly agree. It seems to me that the world is waiting for some sort of step function revolution, as we have experienced between DOS and Windows. Okay, command line, but come on, let me use something else. And when Windows 3.1 particularly came on the field, it was like, oh gosh, everything has become so easier, so easier. And when plug and play came on, later on plug and play came on, and you didn't have to think about what card you're inserting, and so it's kind of waiting to a step function of that sort together with a plug and play type of experience. Okay, hopefully someone will deliver it. Wink, wink. We've seen how fast-moving AI projects get stuck, and not because of the model or the idea, but because of the infrastructure couldn't scale or couldn't stabilize in time. Have you seen teams with great ideas lose momentum just because of this, just because of their inability to stabilize and scale? And if you have, and I have a sense that you have, then what do you believe is the remedy?
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think it's happening very often because, as we were saying before, you need to move super fast in this field. I don't think it's about, even having good ideas or even having good use cases. It's about being first to deliver. And one thing is how you run this in, during experimentation phase. And a different story is when you run at the scale, right? Where you need to 100 of thousands of customers to make sure even let's say one simple example, right? You are deploying a chatbot to serve your customers, everything is working well, and then you realize so many customers, they are going to be attacking to the same model, and you don't have bandwidth, it's going to get errors all the time. So you need to dimensionate your systems to make sure that it's going to be scalable, right? So I think it requires a lot of testing, but also a lot of testing thinking about a real case scenarios. There are still people trying to measure success in very reduced scopes. So we are developing an assistant, and only 1% of my employees, they are using it, right? And I always say the same thing, and that's why cloud is also very important to AI, right? Because as soon as models get more complicated, and you need to have scalability, you need to have elasticity. So you need to dimension your services to make sure you are going to be able to respond to such a huge demand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also it's about, trying to measure success. So people or companies still fail in the way to how to measure the success of the different use cases. So they don't face many of the challenges that maybe they are going to have in the future, right? Because still very new technologies, they're still not super mature, and they're facing this problem over and over again, right? So I think the same, and that was probably something similar to traditional ML, where you were deploying, I don't know, just a model to do fraud detection. At some point of time, you realize like, hey, you cannot serve just one single endpoint into this specific instance, and you need to deploy multiple endpoints to so many different people that they're going to reach your application from many different places, and you need to have this elasticity and so on. So it's not the same when you deploy it in your testing environment than when you deploy it in your real environment. And I think it's not nothing new. Again, it's happening with AI, it's happening with traditional ML, but it's happening with many other systems.
Yeah. Maybe also the addition, but this is a very small extension on what you said. Maybe also the addition of tools which are able to simplify the testing to be made by non-data scientists necessarily, like the project manager being able to do that. And open source no-code solutions are there, but now you're dealing not with an open source, you're dealing with your own company created model. So how are you going to actually enable its refinement by non-professionals? But yeah, well, this is I think a process in motion, and I perfectly agree with your conclusion. On an interesting note, and it connects with something that I said in the beginning, I really fell in love, as I think another at least 5,000 people, with your very funny but so true post, which is it's all about the data. And as soon as it's washed as GenAI, then it's all beautiful. It becomes the same data, but with a unicorn and colorful. And for some weird reason, I can't explain, it led me to see what are your thoughts about another big thing, and that is the dreaded AGI. And that's my question to you. What do you think about AGI? I don't know. Frankly, I don't know how I came from that post to this, but it kind of felt that when things are washed in a certain way, then they become something else. And I was very interested to hear your thought about that.
I have opposite feelings here. Even by myself, a part of me is telling me AGI is going to come at some point of time. A different part of me is telling me hey, no, this is not possible, at least in the short term. This is the reality. Reality says that right now, in many different aspects, LLMs, they are much better than us. I mean, that's a reality. And we cannot just say LLMs, they are just predictive token generators. Even when they are doing it pretty well. I mean, I cannot just, read hundreds of different documents, make a summary in just a couple of seconds. So, I mean, in many different ways, LLMs, they are better than us. And we don't need to call it AGI, but in some manner, it's a different level of intelligence, right? So this is from one side. But from the other side, I know LLMs, they are still failing in such simple things, especially about, the capability they have to generalize. So while, a kid of 2 years, if they say a dog and they see a cat, for them it's going to be super easy to differentiate all the time what it's a dog versus what it's a cat. This is not happening for AI. They need to see, hundreds or thousands of different images. And even with that, sometimes they are going to fail. So we cannot compare. They are still different. But something that LLMs, they are doing also very well is about trying to mimic how we behave. So we are talking about reasoning models. Are these models really reasoning? Well, maybe not, but they are mimic how we reason. So sometimes just to mimic the process, it's more than enough. So maybe what I used to say is like, they are not going to achieve AGI, but they are going to mimic AGI. And for our purpose, that's actually the same thing, right? What is the difference? So, I mean, probably we are going to see much better models. For sure, we will evolve from transformers into something that is going to be more efficient, is going to work in a much better way. And I think this is going to come, to be honest. And we used to forget so easily things. If any one of us have shown like 3 years ago what these models they are capable of, we will be like shocked. And right now we used to say like, hey, no, it's not able to say like if I don't know, if 9.9 it's bigger than 9.11. And it's so funny because you see people, you're like still getting stuck into the discussions. But I mean, like, we get used very easily to new stuff, but it's simply amazing. I mean, like, I was working, or I started, like to do data science by the typical, like Titanic example, right? If you compare what you had 10 years ago with the Titanic example, but even not 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, what the things that you have today, it's simply amazing. And if we do this analogy, maybe at some point of time, I don't know if we should call it AGI, a different kind of intelligence. We are still missing some, because the problem is about how we define intelligence. For me, also intelligence, it's emotional intelligence, it's common sense, you have feelings, you have many different aspects. But I mean, like, at some point of time, probably we'll be there. I don't know if to say if it's going to be 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, but I think at some point of time we will be there.
I side very much with your conclusion, and I'll tell you, I'm coming from a different direction. When each of us is born, he's born with a machine, which is, we don't know how it really works, but we understand that neurons are there. We understand that. And we understand that there are very complicated ways for them to work, probably not the way that they're working in actual computers. But at the end of the day, you have a slightly Spanish accent, and I have a slightly Hebrew accent, and we follow cultural habits, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we have feelings, and we have underlying feelings, and everything we know and everything we behave by comes into our own neural networks by imitation of things about us. So we have very sophisticated loss functions, we have very fast evaluation processes, and we have very immediate deployment and rerun an improvement of our models. But at the end of the day, this is what exists within us. So it's kind of going towards the end rather than climbing the mountain. At the end of the day, as you said very correctly, from the Titanic example, it's still on Kaggle, I think. From the Titanic example to today, it's like the world has revolved 20 times. But at the end of the day, it will continue going up and up and up, and then by the Turing test sense of it, we will not be able to discriminate or define what is an AGI in the experimentation level of it, and what is a human being. So mixed feelings, because sometimes it sounds all like science fiction, and I think we're very lucky to be living in such an era. I think we're very lucky to having people like you explaining this world for us on an ongoing basis. I will not keep you more, and I really thank you for your time here and sharing your thoughts with us, Eduardo, and looking forward also for a beer together sometime, somewhere around this world. Where can our audience follow your work, like social media, blogs, any recent publication, anything upcoming, any collaborations, any initiatives, anything you want to share with us?
Well, probably most of the time. So probably you will be able to see me somewhere around the world. Next week, I'm heading to the summit in Madrid, then to Lisbon. Week after, I will be in this conference in Amsterdam, TNW. But yeah, I mean, like, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I used to publish on Medium, but To be honest, not very often lately because I don't have like so many time. But again, I'm super accessible. I always say the same thing. I try to reply 99% of the time. Sometimes I'm missing some messages. But again, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to be in touch. And again, it was such a pleasure to be here with you today. Probably we can say each other over there or at some point on time in somewhere in the world.
Wonderful. I thank you once again, Eduardo. I wish you a lot of success in your actually sacred mission, which I enjoy following for a very long time. I wish you a lot of luck and health. And thank you very much for lending your time together with us and with our audience today. Thank you very much. Have a great day,
Pleasure.
A great week, a great weekend.
It was a pleasure. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.